In this video, you'll discover the importance of sometimes subtle visual cues on your website and how your visitors might be inferring from them and learning from them a lot about you and your business without even reading any of the words on your page. Hello, I'm Shane Milach from Thrive Themes, and today we're doing another website review. The website that was sent in that we're looking at is John Hannah Mind Coach, this one right here. So that's johnhannahmindcoach.com. And we're looking at this website. Like I said, one of the big lessons here is about visual cues. But before we get to that, I want to tell you the two things that stood out to me right away on this homepage. And I think one of them is also a really important lesson that we haven't talked about before. If we look at this homepage here, and actually especially the top section, the above the fold part of the homepage, we have this grid that explains a few things, and here we have a features and benefits problem. Now, I'm sure you've heard about this in marketing. You should make sure that you don't talk too much about the features. You should emphasize the benefits. I mean, of course you've heard about this, right? It's like marketing 101. But here's where it can go wrong. It's easy to think that, well, you know, software products obviously have features and maybe technical products have features. So if you're selling a toaster or a washing machine or a car or something like that, then you have to be sure not to fall into the trap of just talking about features. However, this same principle applies to services and completely non-technical businesses as well, as we have here. Because what we have right here on this homepage, it says transformation coaching, therapeutic workshops, neurolinguistic programming, hypnosis, and so on. And these are features. Now, one of the ways you can think about this to make this clearer is that all of this tells me what you do, but not why it matters to me. Or another way of saying it, if I look at this website, it tells me what this stuff is, but not what it does for me. So those are two ways to think about features versus benefits that will help you see any business in this context and not think that it only applies to technical stuff, right? So think of it as, and you can go and have a look at your own website right now, go and have a look at one of your landing pages and think about how much time am I spending simply saying what it is, and how much time am I spending emphasizing why this matters to my reader. Then the second thing that stood out to me on this homepage is one that we've covered a couple of times before on website reviews, and that is we have a lot of stuff here on the homepage, and really you're leaving it up to the visitor to kind of figure out what's going on and piece things together, because we have all this stuff. Then you can sign up here, then we have some social media and phone number and stuff like that, and then we have a lot of navigation, right? We have some coaching workshops, NLP, hypnosis. And really, as a visitor, I just have to figure out what I want and go look for it myself. And in most cases, it's a much better idea to kind of take the visitor by the hand and lead them through a journey. And in fact, I have a whole separate video about this, about the importance of understanding the visitor journey, of understanding what it's like for a completely new visitor to come to your website with fresh eyes and experience that. So I won't elaborate on that anymore, but I will link to the visitor experience video below. So now let's get to those visual cues. And for that, let's just, again, have a quick scroll through the homepage. And we're not even going to read any of the words, basically. We're just going to look at what are we getting as a visual input. And let's go and have a look at a few other pages as well. Here we've got basically a pricing page from the look of it. And then maybe this one. Here we've got a testimonials page. And one thing that really strikes me here is that there are no images of people anywhere on this site. And that is quite an important point, because this website is a very personal website. First of all, it is a personal brand. It is the website name is a person's name, right? It's John Hannah Mind Coach. So this is a personal brand, and also the topic of the website, this kind of coaching, is also a deeply personal thing. It's something that people do between each other, right? It's a person helping out other people. So this is a very human website, or the topic is very human, but there are no pictures of humans anywhere here. And for example, on this part of the page, there's actually these 3 little boxes here. These are actually testimonials, but there's no visual cue to tell me these are testimonials. Now, what matters about a testimonial is that it's another person telling me something about this service or this website. But there's no visual cue here that says, hey, these are real people talking. There's also this about section at the bottom here, which again, it's about this person, but there's no image of the person. And in fact, even if we go to the about page right here, we have a page with information and no images. And this is an important thing to keep in mind for a website like this. And that's because if we look at some of the pages on this website and we kind of blur them out, or just like we did before, we kind of just, jump through them without really paying attention to the details, there are no visual cues that tell me that this is a personal brand, that this is about, self-improvement or getting over fears or whatever, the different services are here. And there's no visual cue that tells me that this is a people-focused website. In fact, like I said, if we kind of just blur out some of these pages and just look at the overall design, this looks to me more like it might be, some kind of a legal information website or medical information website, something like that. One of the ways to fix this problem is to get a better idea of your competitors and of what similar websites, similar services, similar businesses are doing on their websites. The reason this can be useful is because of what's called the prototypicality of a website. Now, this might be a bit strange because I usually talk about how important it is to have a unique selling point and to differentiate yourself from your competitors and so on. And that is definitely very important for your business. But for your website's design, it should be, to some extent, prototypical. Here's a simple example of what that means. If I am on an e-commerce website, then we have many different e-commerce websites selling a wide range of different products, and they all have their own kind of unique angles, their own ways in which I might prefer one place to shop online over another. But one of the things I simply expect is that there is a shopping cart icon in the top right corner. And if I click on that, I get an overview of my shopping cart, and that is basically always in the same format. It's always a list view that lists my items, the quantities, the prices, and I can make adjustments there. And really, I don't want to go to a website that is super creative and original and has a totally different layout, totally different navigation, totally different cart overview. That doesn't help me, because first of all, it doesn't help me understand that this is an online shop. And it doesn't help me if I have to kind of relearn the navigation and the user interface every time I go to a website. Similarly, when I read a blog, then of course every blog is different and the content is different, and I might prefer one blogger over another. But I don't want to have to relearn what a blog looks like and what the navigation works and so on every time I visit a blog. So these are examples of how certain things on websites are prototypical, and you should keep those things prototypical. So for a website like this, and this applies to anyone and anyone's business, but in this case, I would have a look at what are other personal coaches doing? What are successful personal coaches doing? What do their websites look like? What are some common items? What are some prototypical items that will help visitors understand what kind of website this is and what to expect here? And this is, like I said, it's kind of interesting because obviously if you just go and copy someone else's website, then your website is no longer unique and that defeats the point. So it's not about like copying someone else, but it's about finding those elements, finding those prototypical elements that will help your visitor understand what your site is about and keeping all the rest unique. So that is visual cues and prototypicality of websites. As you can tell, this is almost like a soft skill of online marketing or soft skill of web design, because it's quite difficult to really put your finger on it. But I think it's an important thing to be aware of. And so I hope you can take this and apply it to your own website as well. And of course, as always, if you have any questions about this, if you have any thoughts you want to share about this, please go ahead and leave a comment below and I'll be happy to jump in and reply. And that's all for today's website review. If you enjoyed it, please share. and thank you for watching.